An inquest into the death of 61-year-old grandfather Peter Lynch is taking place. Now, the ones who have been following my channel will know all about Peter Lynch, who in the articles, which I'm going to read out to you soon, they describe him as a rioter. And he has had a lot of bad press when you watch or when you read up on him. But I'm going to refer to him as a protester because that is exactly what he was doing, and he should not have been thrown in prison the way he has. And when he got inside the prison, yes, the prison has a duty of care to look after the elderly, for one, unless they're bacons. But they've still got a duty of care to do that. But Peter Lynch, never been in trouble in his life, put down as being a rioter, rioting outside of a hotel, and the only people that he was griefing was the police, because the police used force against him. So he went from being a peaceful protester to then giving the coppers grief. Giving the coppers grief isn't a bad person, isn't someone that needs chucked in prison. Them coppers were roughing him up. He did not deserve prison. And yes, there is coppers that watch the channel. There is probation. There's people from all sorts of different backgrounds. Now let us know in the comments, do you believe or do you think that was justified, sentencing 61-year-old grandfather Peter Lynch to prison? Was that justified? It shows exactly that it wasn't justified from the mere fact that if it was, like it says it is, he strung himself up inside of prison because he's not a criminal. He's not the type of person that needs to be inside of prison, and he's not a prison mentality person. Because the majority of people that land inside of prison have either come from that sort of background, they've come from rough neighborhoods, they've been brought up rough fighters, whatever, and the majority of people that go inside a prison aren't that fazed by it. But if you're someone like Peter Lynch, who's never been in trouble with the law, you were fed up by what has been going on inside of the UK with the mass illegal migration, and with Axel Rudekabana committing the Southport atrocities. That is what set a lot of people off going out onto the streets and protesting. And yes, you did have your small minority that was rioting. Not everybody that took to the streets was rioting. Some of them were protesters, and Peter Lynch was one of them. He had a placard, and on the placard, he said exactly what he thought about the UK government, and that is the reason they chucked him in prison. It's nothing to do with the fact that they say he was a rioter and he was spouting hatred and he was a far-right rioter who deserved to be in prison. He was not. So when you get inside of prison, you sort of know what's coming because you're expecting it, and you know people that have been to prison, or you've got friends inside of prison, so you're prepared for it. If you're someone like Peter Lynch, 61-year-old, a pensioner, who is in his latter years, would have been shitting himself before he even went to prison. Then once inside, he would have been shitting himself even more, because inside of HMP Moreland in South Yorkshire, it is full of people from different ethnicities. So they would have been putting the shits up him, and he would have also been thinking in the back of his head, am I going to get a load of shit from the Asian lads, the black lads, whoever? That is what he would have been thinking. They are saying he's a racist. He is in a jail full of people from different ethnicities, so he is shitting himself. But the screws have a duty of care to keep an eye on him. They would have knew that he was all over in the press. He was elderly. He might be scared of his life or scared for his life, so they have a duty of care to keep an eye on him. So a jury look into mental health of man jailed after disorder who died in Yorkshire prison. An inquest into the death of 61-year-old grandfather who was jailed following the riot outside of a hotel housing asylum seekers will look at assessments of his mental health while he was in custody, including whether there were any missed opportunities to support him. Peter Lynch died at HMP Moreland in South Yorkshire 2 months after he was jailed for 2 years and 8 months by a judge who heard how he was at the front of a mob which gathered outside the Holiday Inn Express in Rotherham shouting scum and child killers at police. So the way they portrayed him in the fucking press like this, he was at the front of a mob. They're trying to say he was the ringleader at the front of the mob. What an absolute load of bull. So they jailed him for 2 years and 8 months. But if he was a bacon and he had harmed little ones, or he was involved in watching videos of little ones getting harmed, which I done a video on my Facebook channel. I didn't put it on here for obvious reasons because it was too graphic for YouTube. It would have been violations straight away, so I couldn't put it on here. A lad, or a man should I say, similar age as Peter Lynch, he was 57-year-old Darren Turner from Pelton in Stanley. He was watching some of the most horrific videos, stuff that Ian Watkins was getting up to. The videos were too graphic. They were involved in little ones aged between 1 and 3 who were getting RAP. You know what I'm trying to say. These were absolutely graphic. He had 2,500 videos, category A, on his computer. He got an 18-month prison sentence, suspended for 2 years in order to do 30 hours rehabilitation work. How can you compare the two? Peter Lynch was out there protesting with a placard. He had nothing to do with shouting anything to get inside the hotels or anything like that. He was out there, a grandfather, worried for his kids and his grandkids, and he was shouting scum at the police and child killers because of Axel Ruder-Cabana, and saying he'd had enough of what was going on inside of the UK and obviously about the mass illegal migration, which you have a duty to do if you're a British citizen and you're fed up with that sort of behaviour. You take to the streets because there's nothing else you do. He has a placard. Not like some of the protesters on the other side who were turning up with weapons and bricks and different things of the sort. And what happened to them? They didn't get jailed. But Peter Lynch, an old bloke who couldn't cause any harm, was sentenced to 2 years and 8 months. When Mr. Lynch's inquest was opened more than a year ago, Doncaster's senior coroner, Nicola Mundy, heard that he died on October the 19th, 2024 as a result of hanging. At a pre-inquest review on Thursday, Miss Mundy outlined the scope of the full inquest hearing, which will be held in front of a jury at Doncaster's Coroner's Court starting on the 20th of July. Now, a lot of people have come to different conclusions and said people from the different ethnic backgrounds, same ethnic backgrounds that Ruder-Cabana and the sort were from, and the illegal migrants, there was rumours going around that they had gotten a hold of him and done it and made it look as though he'd done it himself. I don't believe that was the case, because I do believe it happened when the doors were all banged up and locked, but I do believe he was getting griefed and he was worrying for his safety, Worrying that much, in fact, that the anxiety got the better of him and he couldn't see no other way out. And he didn't want to be harmed by anybody, so he took matters into his own hands, which shouldn't have had to happen. Hence the reason it's going up in front of a jury. The coroner said that this would include any assessments made of his mental health at any stage in the 10-week period between the point of his arrest outside the hotel and his death, as well as any support he was given. So a 10-week period between the point of his arrest and his death. How quick was that? Arrested, fast-tracked, 10 weeks later, already served 8 weeks inside the prison and done away with himself. His legal team should have not told him to plead guilty either. The bloke that I've just talked about, the bacon I'll refer to from my area, who got a suspended sentence, who was watching the most graphic of videos, got a suspended sentence, and it took over a year to get to court. He pleaded guilty because he was banking the rights. It was on his computer. There was no other way out. Why wasn't he told to plead guilty and sentenced within 2 weeks like Peter Lynch was? What is going on with the UK government and the UK law? It is absolutely beyond belief. In terms of his time in HMP, Miss Mundy listed a range of areas which will be covered in the inquest, including matters which may have impacted on his mental health, whether there was any evidence of increased vulnerability, which there was, and whether there were any missed opportunities to put further support in place. A previous hearing heard how Mr. Lynch was facing an allegation that he broke prison rules at the time of his death. Miss Mundy said it was put up to the inquest to make any determination about his guilt or otherwise in relation to that matter, but said she did not consider this a potentially significant event, which will be explored before the jury. Explore the fact that he shouldn't have been in there to start with. Explore the fact that the judge gave him the wrong sentence. The coroner said it was relevant to look at the impact of Mr. Lynch's conviction and his sentencing on his well-being, but stressed, I will not be criticising in any way judgment of other courts. Well, you should do. You should grow a backbone and get that judge took off the bench for what he done, sentencing him to 2 years and 8 months. I would love to know how that judge feels now, knowing that Mr. Lynch took his life. Mr. Lynch was arrested on August the 4th, 2024, outside the hotel, where he was pictured holding a placard asserting the corruption of MPs, judges, the media, and the police. This is my exact argument. He wasn't out there trying to portray violence or anything. He had a placard talking about MPs, judges, the media, and the police. But when he got close to the police, they started ramming him with their big plaques, the big plastic barriers, what they had. They were ramming him with them, pushing him back, when that was not justified. That should be spoke about at the inquest. Why were them coppers doing that? How do them coppers now feel known they antagonised an old man, and that old man couldn't handle prison because he should never have been there, and he took his own life? How do you feel, Mr. PC? How do you feel, political CUNT? When he was sentenced in August 2024, body-worn camera footage was shown to the court of him screaming, "You are protecting people who are killing our kids and raping them, and scum are police with riot shields." Because like I've just said, the riot shields were used to ram him. So then he said he got angry with the coppers. Why are you protecting people who are killing kids and raping them? Exactly. The whole of the UK. As I'm recording this, the UK is going to unite the kingdom down in London. The Tommy Robinson March. because the fucking UK is fed up with what is going on with the system and the illegal migration and the way the country has went to the absolute dogs. Hence the reason I left. Because if I'd stayed there any longer, I would be in prison. I would be in prison by the way that I've come across on social media. And I would be in prison because I wouldn't be able to hold myself back in the UK with the way the system is. And if I was out with a peaceful protest and the coppers were ramming me, then we'll leave it there. He was one of more than 100 men who have now been convicted at Sheffield Crown Court following the Rotherham riot, which left 64 police officers injured, as well as 4 dogs and a horse. The court heard how Miss Lynch suffered from diabetes, thyroid issues, and angina, and had recently had a heart attack. Now that should have been mitigation for a suspended sentence, also the early guilty plea. It was also told that Mr. Lynch from Wath upon Dearne, Rotherham, had been married for 36 years and had 4 adult children and 3 grandchildren and was a peaceful, law-abiding citizen. Some of his family were in court for Thursday's pre-inquest review, and another family member joined by video link. The coroner said the inquest will start on July the 20th and is currently scheduled to finish on August the 4th. And I will keep you updated on that, exactly what goes on. But let me know your thoughts, people. Engage. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Was this an absolute travesty, which it was? This is an absolute travesty. This is an infringement on your human rights, your freedom of speech. And like I've said, all of these pedos that I cover on here, and the ones more so that I cover on Facebook, that get suspended sentences. Why couldn't Peter Lynch get a suspended sentence? He wasn't involved in harming anybody. Yes, there was rioters that went on to do things, and obviously some hotels were getting targeted and smashed up. But he wasn't involved in any of that. He was griefing MPs, police, and obviously the government. So where is the wrongdoing in that? The freedom of speech with a placard grieving the UK system. I agree with what Peter Lynch was saying. I agree with what he had on his placard. And now that a lot of people's eyes are getting opened up, a lot of people that were involved in this, including MPs, coppers, judges, will probably now have a different stance on this, but they won't have the backbone to stand up and say, we got it wrong. Because that is the UK system. The UK no longer has a backbone. Some of the British patriots do, who go to the streets to try and take our country back. Yes, it is still my country. Even though I don't live there, I'm still a UK born and bred national. And I do take pride in my country. And the reason I left was because, like I've said, with police and probation, I was getting targeted by police and probation for, guess what? For doing well and turning my life around. I could no longer stay in the UK with that kind of animosity on my back when I suffered with an IPP sentence for 20 years, a 99-year sentence, which I had terminated. And as soon as it was terminated, I left the UK because it has went to the absolute dogs. Let me know your thoughts, people. I'm going to leave that one there for now. Hopefully you are enjoying the content. And if you are, remember to comment, like and subscribe. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. But most importantly, people, stay safe.